Chapter 1. The Apparition from the Mist. I do not know how long I had been walking. However, it suddenly appeared out of nowhere. I have no idea where it came from or how far it extended. My anxiety increased with every step I took. There it was. It was a fine hazy mist that enveloped every fiber of my body. The feeling was one of a damp, cool spray that one can often feel whenever one ventures close to a waterfall. Still, the moisture was everywhere, making my body shiver from its coolness. It was a foggy type of wetness that, although it was unsettling, it also had a quality that was somewhat soothing to the touch and for my emotion. I have no idea where I was. I had lost all sense of time. I had no sense of where I had even come from. I also had no sense of where I was going. There was nothing around me to indicate what was even happening to me. There was just this fine mist that was surrounding every fiber of my being. As I focused ahead of me, all I could see was this mist. I continued walking. Soon, through this foggy moisture, I was able to make out a path that I was traversing. Right in front of me, I could see its outline. However, it would disappear in the foggy mist if I looked even a foot ahead of me. Turning around, I could only see the path that I was on right beneath my feet, as that path would also disappear in the mist the further I tried to look behind me. Where was I coming from? Who was I? What was I doing here? Most importantly, what was my destination? A multitude of questions entered my head. Despite the anxiety and apprehension, there was a sense of excitement as to what I would ultimately find. There was nothing in my journey to this point that would indicate that I was facing any type of danger. I did remember that I had always been a man driven by faith. When times would be turbulent, my faith in God would deliver me from my darkest hours. When times were good, God would also show me how to appreciate the events in my life. Any blessings I felt had been provided out of God's grace. Now I found myself on this path which seemed to have no beginning. Looking ahead, it also appeared that it had no end. The more I continued to walk, the more I felt my legs begin to tire. My apprehension started growing more and more as I continued my journey. After what seemed to be a limitless amount of time, I slowly started to make out the objects close to the path I traversed. First, my keen sense of hearing detected what sounded like a small bubbling creek next to the path. Looking over and squinting my eyes, I began to make out the ripples of the water that accompanied the sound. I also made out the outline of a few small wooden benches next to this sound. Farther down the path, I thought I heard the sound of birds chirping in the distance. As the misty haze made it difficult to see, the sound became clearer the longer I kept wandering down the walkway. Through a misty fog, a path, a small brook with benches, and hearing the sound of birds, I asked myself what else I would find on this unexpected adventure. I continued my trek. It was at that moment I thought I heard a voice. At first, it seemed almost undetectable. As I continued walking, the volume seemed to increase with every few steps I took. Finally, the sound was audible enough that I thought I could begin to make out what was being said. It appeared to be a woman's voice. It had a soft, high-pitched tone clearly associated with a female. The words began to get clearer with every additional step. This voice appeared to be calling my name. As I continued walking, I heard the voice appear to get closer. I looked around, but the mist inhibited my ability to see where I thought the sound had emanated. Something inside me yearned to discover where this sound was coming from. More importantly, I needed to know who it was that was calling me and how this voice knew who I was. Moving forward, I was finally able to discern what appeared to be 3 bright lights on wooden poles in the distance. These lights appeared to be equidistant in a circle around something. This illumination was hazy, but grew more distinct as I moved closer. As the glow grew clearer, I was able to make out the outline of what these lights sought to define. There was some sort of building beneath these lights. Once I was within 30 feet from the structure, the mist seemed to evaporate. Along with the lights, there was a full moon right above the structure. There was a warmth in the air that I can say I never quite felt before. At that time, the structure became clearly recognizable. It was a white gazebo. Around this gazebo, the mist was completely gone. This circular building was small and simplistic in character. The building was white and enclosed with white fencing. The roof appeared to have small triangular shingles with a grayish tone. Affixed to the top of the roof, there was a small white cross. Inside, there was a small circular oak table with 2 padded wooden chairs, also painted white. Even though this structure seemed overly simplistic, there was a moving sensation to my being there at that time. It was then that I made out the silhouette of a woman sitting by the table in one of the chairs. The woman appeared to be looking directly at me. I could see her lips begin to move. Once again, she uttered my name. With one of her hands, I could see her motion for me to come in and sit in the vacant chair. There was no fear in my mind or heart as I approached. Rather, I was intrigued by this adventure and yearned to discover what exactly was happening. As I moved closer, my eyes met the eyes of this mysterious stranger, and we both smiled. At that moment, I sensed some surreal connection with this being. I had many questions that I desired answered. Where was I? How did she know my name? What was she doing out in this place that seemed so secluded? Why did she appear to be alone? More importantly, I needed to know who she was. She was a beautiful woman. It is most difficult to describe what I was seeing. She was dressed in a white satin evening gown, with a pair of dark shoes with leather straps. These shoes were not exactly high heels, but neither were they completely flat. She wore no jewelry that I could see. Neither could I see any makeup. She seemed to be a natural beauty, merely as she was. She had a dark brown tint to her hair that was accentuated with a few curls in front and extended down toward the middle of her back. Her eyes were a gentle blue that seemed to radiate a sensitivity when she gazed at me. Finally, her lips had a soft fullness and warmth that attracted me to her in a most romantic way. At that moment, she told me that she would answer all my questions in time. First, she told me that I needed to trust my faith. God would be bringing me significant changes in the future. She emphasized that God would provide the path that He wanted me to follow, just like the path that brought me to her. I would need to be conscientious of the subtle indicators God would provide for me. After she said this, she asked me if I would like to go for a very short walk. How could I refuse the most beautiful woman I had ever seen? At that moment, we emerged from the gazebo and began walking further down the path opposite to the direction that I had taken to arrive at the lights. In this direction, the mist had completely disappeared to be replaced by the clear crispness of the moonlight. I saw with clarity the bubbling brook by the path. However, I could not see anything across the water except the misty fog that seemed to extend upward from the other side. I could also see vividly the wooden benches. These benches had a small design of a cross on the back. Moreover, birds were actively singing in the air. Surprisingly, I could see that a few of these birds appeared to be doves. Their tone sounded like the most riveting orchestra composition. During this interlude, the woman did not say anything to me. We continued walking and enjoying our serene surroundings. Finally, she put her hand in mine. We sat down on one of the wooden benches sprinkled along the path by the water. She reiterated what she said earlier in the gazebo. She wanted me to be conscientious and pay attention to the signs God would provide. Yet she added one additional comment. God will ultimately bring you what you feel you lack and what you feel you have lacked all of your life. It just may take time and patience to get there. I tried to obtain elaboration as to what she was saying. However, at that moment, I saw what appeared to be lightning in the distance. The singing of the birds disappeared. After that moment, this woman said nothing more to me. Only the sound of the bubbling brook permeated the air. A little while after this first sight of lightning, I heard what sounded like the loudest clap of thunder I had ever heard. I told the stranger we should leave and go to safety. She agreed and understood. She released my hand and began walking toward a mist that was once again surrounding the path. There was another streak of lightning. It was followed quickly by another very loud clap of thunder. I began walking briskly in the opposite direction to how I had gotten to the gazebo. More lightning ensued with quicker claps of thunder. I turned around. The strange woman was almost invisible when she also turned around and gazed at me. It was then that she said one last thing, "My name is Miri." One last clap of thunder, and Miri was gone.